Welcome to the very first episode of Thin Ice, the Sunflowers news and entertainment podcast. I am your host, Ray Strunk. Also hosting will be Chance Swaim, editor-in-chief of the Sunflower, Wichita State's independent student newspaper. We have some fantastic guests in store for today. First, we'll have Tabitha Brown and Alex Koon from the WSU volleyball team to talk about their inaugural season in the American Athletic Conference. Shocker Volleyball finished the season with a 29-4 record, the best for a WSU team since 2008. And for the very first time, WSU hosted the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. After that, we'll bring in Jay Price, chair of the WSU History Department. Jay recently published a book called Wichita Rock and Roll 1950 to 1980s. And he will be joined by Austin Engler and Logan and Griffin Bush of Wichita rock band Kill Vargas. Kill Vargas will be headlining a concert at Crown Uptown Theater this Saturday. We'll take some time after that to discuss the news with some of the Sunflower staff, and then we'll finish off with an appearance from local rapper K-Rich. I heard he was planning on dropping some bars for us, so I'm looking forward to that. If you have any questions about the show, or if there's anything you want to hear us talk about, you can find us on Twitter at Sunflower News, on Facebook at The Sunflower, or at thesunflower.com. All right, let's bring in our first guests.
All right, cool. You're on Thin Ice with the Sunflower. I'm Chance Swaim. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Sunflower, the student paper at WSU. With me today, we've got Ray Strunk, our other co-host.
Hello.
And Aaliyah Funcheli. Is that how you say it? How do you say it? Funchel. I've been saying it wrong for 2 years now. Funcheli.
That's a good start. She's a sports reporter for the Sunflower.
Sports reporter. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Yeah.
Okay, we got two special guests on right now. We got two players from the volleyball team. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Alex Koon. I'm a redshirt sophomore from Williamsburg, Virginia. I'm an outside hitter.
I'm Tabitha Brown. I'm an outside hitter from Spring, Texas, and I'm a junior.
Okay, sweet. I did a little bit of calculation before you guys got in here, and Spring, Texas is 583 miles from this spot, and Williamsburg is 1,126. So what brought you both to WSU? That's kind of a far distance there.
Well, I mean, the program's amazing. Talking with Lambo over the phone and email when I was in high school, his personality is just so unique and interesting that I just knew I wanted to go on a visit here. And as soon as I got on campus, I knew that this was the school for me.
Yeah, Zach, my brother, he played a major factor in me coming here, so that was obviously something. And then I feel like the coach that Lambo was, he's very smart. He seems like he knew what he was doing. And from being at Alabama and being with a coach that told me a lot of stuff that, I don't know, was very opposite to what I heard on the visit, I think that also drew me closer to Lambo.
Could you talk about that more? What do you mean by that?
Because I feel like Lambo is a very honest person. As soon as I came there, he went over my stats. He gave me a little analysis, and he said that I would be about 80% ready for the NCAA tournament, and he said that he could take me there. And that was all I needed to hear to know that, hey, I like this coach a lot.
Okay, so this was the first season of the American Conference. Obviously, I know you guys are probably tired of hearing that. But what was it like? What was different? What was unexpected? What did you guys really get from that?
I don't know if I'll ever get tired of hearing about that. I mean, it was just such an historic season for us, and going into the American Conference was obviously a new challenge for us that we were all looking forward to tackling. But overall, it was amazing. We got to go to some really, really cool places. Connecticut was beautiful. New Orleans is such a cool city, and just being able to go to some new places and play some new competition was awesome for us.
Yeah, and like Lambo said, it was like preseason all year, and we did get to go to a bunch of really cool places. We do love the change of scenery and the new competition and everything, and of course it was a record-setting season for all of us, and we love that aspect as well.
Yeah, it was record-setting. I'm glad you brought that up. This was the best regular season record for you guys since 2008. What made the season so special then? How did it all come together?
We had an amazing group of seniors this year. We are a very mature team, and we had some high expectations for not only individually but as a team, and the leadership and everyone we all were on the same page, and we were able to work together and work really hard all season to make sure that we accomplished those goals.
Yeah, like Alex said, I feel like we have a lot of credit to the experience that we brought to the season. We have some of the best You have some of the best hitters, the best setter in the conference. We have a 3-time All-American with us, and that's always going to help. And I think that this team, we came into the season knowing that we had a chance at going as far as possible, and so we took that and ran with it.
And you guys have a crazy good senior class this year. How are you guys going to recover from losing all of them, and how are you going to build on that for next year?
Honestly, we don't know quite yet, but we do love seeing that a lot of our younger people have stepped up to the challenge already, and we saw them play this past spring, and they did very well. They actually ended up beating KU, and so we are hoping to just build on that this spring.
Absolutely. We're definitely losing a lot of maturity, a lot of experience, but I definitely have very high hopes for the younger girls in our team. And, yeah, this spring is definitely going to be a big building semester and just being able to work on some new things, get people comfortable with being on the court. So hopefully by the time the fall rolls around, we're ready.
As returning players, do you guys feel like you will be taking on more of a leadership role next year for the incoming people or just the younger players on the team?
Yes, as seniors or fourth-year players, I feel like we are going to have that responsibility on our shoulders, and we've been preparing for that since the end of this season. We've been thinking about it lately, and I think that at this point, then we should be ready. I don't think we really have a way to be fully prepared since it will be coming at us no matter what we do. So, I don't know. Either way, we're just going to have to do what we can to be the best leaders as possible.
Absolutely. As the oldest girls on the team now, we're going to have girls looking up to us, looking to us, whether it's on or off the court. So we're going to have to be ready to make sure everyone feels as comfortable as possible.
What is the best bit of knowledge that this senior class is leaving you guys with for next season?
I would just say their mental toughness. No matter what we're doing in games or in practice, they're all so good at being so focused on what we're doing and what we're working on that no matter what, we know that we have a goal, and they're very good at keeping all of our minds focused on what we're working on.
Yes, I really like their consistency and their versatility throughout the season. And, of course, they only got better and better. And it taught us to not only be mentally tough, like Alex said, but to persist in this thing that Lambeau calls a submarine ride.
Could you explain that? The submarine ride. That's interesting.
Well, in the submarine, you really can't get out because you're in water. And so you're in the season, you're in or you're out, There's no turning back once you start.
So what was, for either of you, you can both chime in on this, what was it like playing in the NCAA tournament at home? That's a first for Wichita State. I'm sure it was bittersweet, obviously, breaking the attendance records. Could you talk about that?
I mean, it was incredible. Playing in the NCAA tournament in general is just amazing. So being able to do that at home and breaking that attendance record, it was just so loud. There was such high energy, and it was awesome walking in knowing that energy was for us as opposed to going somewhere else and, having their home crowd. But it was really special.
Yeah, it was really a breathtaking experience for all of us. I'm really glad to have experienced it not only for us but for our seniors. And what's funny is that I had this huge dream of playing at the Intrust Bank Arena, but I feel like having the kind of attendance that we got that weekend kind of topped it for sure.
So how much of a factor did the fan base play into the season?
I mean, having such amazing fans is always brings us up in games. They bring so much energy. So even if we might be down or we may not be playing our best, it's always nice to have that constant support to keep us going.
Yeah, I feel like in our most times of need, then they're always there for us. Like that Creighton game, whenever we started messing up, they would only get louder, and I feel like that kind of carried us into one of those wins. And without them, sometimes I think that our games could have gone the opposite direction, which thankfully they didn't, but I really love that support system that we have surrounding us.
And I know you touched on that Creighton game. That was a big game for you guys early on. How do games like that in your preseason help you in the NCAA tournament?
Well, even though it was only one top 25 win, it was still huge in the fact that that was our home opener since the renovations and everything. And we did not know whether or not we'd be ready for something like that. We were just hoping that we would play a good game, and we didn't think that we would come out with a win initially because, I don't know, our coaches were kind of griping at each other at the beginning of the day, and I don't know, I think with the fans and everything and just how great this team really is, I had higher expectations for them ever since that win.
Sorry. No, yeah, coming out and playing such a good team so early on just really kind of tests our level of competition and our mental toughness and our ability to really work hard for every point. And I think that setting a high standard like that in that game at the beginning of the season was really good for us because it really just kind of gave us the confidence that we could do that for an entire season.
Do you guys have any memorable moments for the season that you could talk about? Any stories, anything funny maybe, or just memorable?
Oh, shoot. We do have a lot, but it's kind of hard to think of on the spot.
Yeah, you got time. We can cut it out.
I feel like our Halloween was pretty sick. We had Oompa Loompas.
Oh,
We had aliens.
Where
I
was
was a
this?
pumpkin. This is just in our gym.
Halloween practice.
Oh, and
Yeah.
you guys dressed up for Halloween practice?
Mm-hmm. And Alex was punk rock.
I
It was
was.
pretty cool. She dyed her hair.
It was temporary, but
And
I rocked
then-
the black.
Heck yeah, she did. And what else?
What was the best costume you saw that night?
Definitely the Oompa Loompas.
Who-
Yeah, all of the middles dressed up together, and
Okay, that's cool.
they had like the brown shirts and the overalls, white pants, and they all spray painted their hair green. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then, gosh, what else happened this semester?
I don't know. I would just say all the different road trips was really cool to go on. Since each place was new, it was like we got to explore a new city with everywhere we went. When we went to Philadelphia, we got to go see the Liberty Bell, and we got to go to the Rocky Steps, and watching Lambeau run up the Rocky Steps was unexpected but very entertaining. He made it all the way to the top. I was very proud of him, but that was pretty funny.
Yeah, he really did get himself a little mini workout there.
He did. It was impressive. He was fast.
Yeah. So speaking of the new conference and the new cities, which one was your favorite and why?
I really liked going to New Orleans. It was such a cool city, and we got to go to Café du Monde and get the, oh my gosh, what are they called?
Beignets.
The beignets, which were so good, and we got to go there early in the morning, so the city was kind of quiet, but it was just a really nice walk, and it was really beautiful.
Yeah, I like New Orleans too. It smelled really good outside,
What did it smell like?
like food. Well, they were having a tailgate next to us, but I felt very Louisiana-ish when I was there. That's a word, isn't it? But
It is,
my
yeah.
favorite place had to be Connecticut. It was just so
yeah.
beautiful going there. I don't know, the road trip was so long, but I enjoyed
You guys
the
drove to
view.
Connecticut?
Yes, from Temple.
Yeah, we
Okay.
drove from Philadelphia up to
Okay.
Connecticut. It was really cool. Yeah, we got to pass by New York City and
Yeah.
saw the skyline. It was awesome.
Yeah, I absolutely loved the view. But yeah, that had to be my favorite.
So you guys were both on the AD honor roll recently. How do you guys balance grades, class, and playing a sport?
I mean, time management is obviously so important. Whether or not you play a sport in college, obviously college is just puts a lot on you. So I would say just doing a little bit at a time, not getting too overwhelmed, not letting things pile up, which still happens every now and then. But just making sure you stay organized and keep all your stuff done.
Yeah, I feel like for us, sometimes it's kind of a shock whenever we're done with volleyball because when we have all that time to ourselves, we don't know what to do with it. So we end up using most of that time to nap or just do anything else in the world. And I feel like it's easier to have to keep up with your stuff because you don't have a choice in volleyball. But, I mean, just do it, you know. It's, I feel like in college you have to try to fail at your classes because they have this workload for you. Depending on what kind of class you have, obviously some are going to be more difficult. But, I mean, if you just show up to class, take your notes, do your work, it should be fairly easy for anyone.
We also have so many resources provided to us for the athletic department. We have study hall and tutors, and we just have so many resources to get help if we need it, so they rock for that.
Yeah.
And outside of volleyball, what are your guys' passions and hobbies? What do you do with all that free time that you'll have now?
Oh, goodness. What free time?
I know, right?
I don't know. In season, it's kind of tough to have a hobby. We're just so busy. I think that the most we get out of the house is just to go get a donut or something.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. It's just.
What's your favorite place to get donuts in Wichita?
We love Hertz because it's 6 minutes from our house. But we also love Donut Hole. It's awesome, especially if you go on a Friday and Saturday and you get to hear the live music. It's always interesting to see what kind of band you're going to run into on a particular night. So that's always entertaining.
And we also have a Krispy Kreme app, so whenever the light's on, you can zoom over there really fast, too.
That's true. It's farther away, but it's definitely worth it.
It's worth it for the free donuts, right?
Indeed.
What else do we do, Tab? We don't do anything.
I feel like we spend that time just, like, hanging out with each other.
That's true. We spend a lot of time. So we have our TVs in our basement, and we have all our couches, and so we'll just go down there and have like a movie night or something like that. But it's really just time spent.
Is it
together.
everybody on the volleyball team that lives in this house?
I
No,
wish.
it's just-
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Just Tab and I live together.
Okay.
Mhm.
Who else lives in there? Is it other volleyball players?
Jordan
or-
Roberts and Megan Grimes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does that help with your on-court chemistry at all? Like, you guys live together, you guys spend all this time together, and then you get out and you play together. How does that work?
I mean, we're all best friends, and we get along so well, which I know might sound really fake, and I'm sure that's what everyone says, but honestly, I don't think I've ever gotten along better with a group of girls, especially this year. I feel like we've all been really close as a team, and being able to come home and they're still there. I mean, that might freak some people out, but I mean, we all have our own space when we need it, but overall, we're all super close.
You guys ever get tired of each other?
Eh.
Yeah, you do.
Not really. I mean, I think that we're all pretty good about, taking our space when we need it. And, I mean, school and volleyball keeps us busy, so it's not like we are really around each other, 24/7, unless it's volleyball related. But
Yeah.
we're pretty good about taking our space.
Who would you say on the team has like the craziest or most bubbly personality that always has you guys laughing?
We're on a podcast. You can't just point.
I was about to say,
She
I
was
don't.
pointing at Alex.
Yeah, in case you didn't say herself, it is her. It is most definitely her.
Let's hear some stories then, Tabitha.
Oh,
She's
no.
got all the jokes. She's a sarcastic one. We always send each other funny tweets every day. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
Send each
90%
other
of our
memes.
relationship is just DMing each other tweets on Twitter.
That's how it should be.
Agreed.
See, exactly.
That's any good friendship right there. It's my brother and I too, man. I feel that.
Yeah, and I mean, she's the loudest cheerer on the team. She's always there to encourage someone. And, it's hard to be sad when Alex is around. Like, it's hard to have a frown on your face. And she's always there making somebody laugh. Like, she never has anything negative to say about people, That's the kind of person you always need by your side. So,
Gonna make me cry. Come on.
it's the truth.
Okay, and then Tabitha with Zach's senior year here. What are you looking forward to watching him this season, and what would you say to him to take in on his senior year?
Oh, gosh. So we have this family group chat or whatever, like everyone else has. And he has this new little quote thing that he does for my parents, and it's like, I hope to make this road trip worth it, because for some games, whenever he doesn't do his best, my parents are kind of hard on us in that aspect of they want us to do our best with whatever we have, no matter where we are, no matter the time it is, And so if we're not at our full potential, like, they'll be like, hey, get it together, but whatever. He said that last night to our parents, and he absolutely killed it. And I think he's going to run with that little quote for a while. But I think if there's anything that I could possibly say to him, is just to keep your head level the entire time. There's nothing you need to think about. You play this game so long that your body should honestly act on instinct. Like, as long as that aggression and that, like, fire is within you, then your talent that you already have should take over.
Mm-hmm.
That
It's
was a lot,
really
I'm sorry.
fun. No, it's fine. It's really fun watching him watch you play volleyball because he's standing up the entire time and he's very. Yes, it's so cute. So do you do the same thing with that? Are you there at every game behind the bench all the time?
Well, whenever I can make it, of course I'm going to be there.
Mhm.
And I feel like, yeah, whenever he does something pretty huge, I'll start standing up for a while.
Mhm. Awesome.
Hey, so there are girls on the volleyball team from all over the United States and even into Italy. Could you guys talk about how you bring your like home cultures or like what like your personalities from home and how that meshes here in Wichita? Everybody's like, it's a meeting point here from everywhere. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone has their own personality, and we all come from all over the country and all over the world. Really just geo, though, you know, everyone else is from the United States. But I don't know. All of our personalities work pretty well together, so I wouldn't say that. I don't know. That's kind of tough. I think that we all just love each other, and we love volleyball and playing the game, and we all just have really similar goals, which I think brings us really close together, even if our personalities don't match up 100%.
Yeah, I feel like location has never been taken into account in terms of our meshing personalities at all. I mean, I feel like we're all kind of the same in some little way, you know. As a team, we all, like Alex said, we all have the same goals, and we all have that same aspect in which we love the sport of volleyball, and we're all going to work hard, you know, and we all love each other the same.
How have you helped Gio out with that language barrier? How have you worked around it or helped her out with it? Just can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, her English has gotten amazing. Definitely, she's, you know, awesome. When she first got here, coaches did a lot of drawing for her. They had a whiteboard that they would carry around, and if they needed to explain where she needed to go, they would draw it out for her, which definitely helped. And then at the beginning, it was definitely a lot of pointing, and then she was really good about if she didn't know the word for something or didn't know how to say something, she asked a lot of questions. So we really just try to help her as much as we can. And I mean, every now and then we have to explain like a phrase to her, you know, some sort of like slang that she doesn't get. But overall, she has improved so much.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty good for just being a year.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, if you're immersed in it, then it should improve. But yeah, the only thing that she was really able to say when she first got here was yes.
That's right.
So from that to being a motor mouth, we can say that she's done pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I played the last 2 years at community college tennis, and there was a lot of people from, you know, different parts of the world and different languages, and that was definitely, I thought, one of the most unique parts of it, like learning about, you know, their culture and then, you know, a lot of teaching English, and that was an interesting part that I didn't really expect coming into it. We'll take a step back from volleyball here. What are you guys majoring in? We haven't even asked that yet. I know we're at a school, so you should probably ask that.
I'm a psychology major.
I'm a sports management.
Yeah, we had that project today.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to be a clinical psychologist? Or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely have grad school in my future, so a lot more school. But yeah, the goal is clinical psychology.
Awesome.
Tabitha, what area of sports management intrigues you the most?
Well, for now, I feel like my future is still a little unclear, but coaching is definitely the most appealing to me right now.
Are you guys want to stay around here after Wichita State? I know this is looking pretty far into the future. Are you going to stay around Wichita? Are you going to go back home or just somewhere else? Do you have any idea?
I haven't really limited myself to any really part of the country. I mean, I moved halfway across the country to go to school, so definitely not afraid of, you know, being away from home or anything like that. I would stay in Wichita. I think that Wichita is an amazing city. But if I had an opportunity somewhere else, I can't say that I wouldn't take it. So very unclear at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same as her, but I feel like I'm probably just going to go home as soon as I'm done. So, yeah. I don't have much else to say about that one.
What has been your favorite course you've taken here so far?
I took a psychology of personality class. last fall, and I thought that was really interesting. It talked a lot about how the way that we grow up versus just our genetics and things like that, how just different things affect your personality and how your personality affects, the way that you work with others, and I thought that was really cool.
I don't know if I've had like an absolute number one, but sports management, being with a lot of other athletes, I feel like it's kind of exciting to go into that class and seeing someone in there, and it's typically pretty fun with every class that I have, so I like them all.
Well, thank you guys for being on. It was good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm Ray Strunk, and you're listening to Thin Ice. Welcome. We have special guests right now, Jay Price, the chair of the Wichita State History Department, and local rock band, Kill Vargas. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hey, I am Griffin Bush. I play the guitar and vocals in Kill Vargas.
I'm Logan Bush. I play drums in Kill Vargas.
And I'm Austin Engler, and I'm the bassist.
All right, Jay.
Right. Again, Jay Price with the Local and Community History Program.
All right. Jay recently wrote a book called Wichita Rock and Roll 1950 to 1980. And Kill Vargas will be playing at the Crown Uptown Theater, headlining December 9th. Could you guys talk about, Jay, I'll let you talk first about your book. Just a quick overview of that.
Sure. The book that's just come out is a history of rock bands in Wichita from the 50s up through the 80s, kind of the golden age, if you will, of the live band era for this city. It was actually a team effort. I was lucky to be part of a really great team of researchers and authors and musicians and so forth. But we just had a debut of the book at Margarita's with 4 rock bands playing. I've never been to a book signing quite like that.
All right, and Kill Vargas, somebody can talk about your concert upcoming.
Yeah, it's Saturday. It'll be at the Crown Uptown Theater, free and all ages, and it'll be Kill Vargas, The Caves, Tideway, and Salt Creek playing, and yeah, it'll just all ages and free.
We got Caves are releasing their first record, and we also just released a split with Tideway, so we've all kind of got some new songs that we are releasing on that night, so it's pretty cool.
All right, I'm going to start with a question for all of you. Everyone will have a chance to chime in on this one. Why Wichita Rock and Roll? What makes it so special? Anybody can start.
You can go ahead and start.
Some cities are known for a very distinct sound, but there isn't necessarily a distinct Wichita sound. However, in the 1960s and 70s in particular, we were a major regional center for live rock bands. And so it's really not just music, it's this whole club scene where people would attend 6 nights a week even. Bands could play pretty commonly. And so this is a real great opportunity to see how common trends filter down to the middle of the country.
Could you guys talk about Kill Vargas, what you guys are noticing nowadays with that? What's the scene like now?
Well, now it's pretty cool because it's just a bunch of young kids that we all we just kind of started making bands together and then started playing together, and a bunch of people started showing up. So, yeah, and now we're starting to bring other acts coming in, but it's just a bunch of friends hanging out and playing some music, so it's really cool to have such a friendly, nice music scene to kind of help out with that.
And could you talk about the music scene itself in Wichita? How conductive is Wichita to, how open is it to like new acts and music and for anybody, I guess, here?
Yeah, really just this last year it's been crazy with how many new bands with young kids have been forming. And like bands will form and then a few months later they'll be having shows and hundreds of kids are coming out to watch them. And we just noticed that that it didn't used to be that way when we'd throw shows. We'd throw shows for like 25, 30 people. But now it's just like word has got out a little more and people are more like willing to come out and check out new bands that they've never heard before. So that's really exciting. And just like also the city in general, like just the media outlets have taken to the music scene a lot. Like we're getting a lot more articles written about us in newspapers, and not just us, but just like the scene in general is getting a lot more coverage, and I feel like it's helping with people coming out.
Hey, yeah, Jay, could you talk about that? What you found as far as media coverage and historically, how's that been?
Sure. I mean, this actually ties in really nicely to the era that preceded this one. And the thing that emerged out of this research is this really was a band community. This was a music community. So these guys know each other. They play with each other. They're familiar with each other's works, and they maintain those connections over the years. When we had this book launch, we had guys coming back together who had remained in contact. I mean, they knew each other, but they hadn't played together in 20, 30 years. But they came back and they picked right up where they left off. And so that network, that community really stands out as very strong.
Could you talk about the relationship between rock and roll historically and the history of the city itself, like the culture of Wichita, and how the parallel there between that and then the music that's being played in Wichita? Anybody?
Sure. This particular community emerges in the 1950s as it's an industrial community, but you also have a whole generation of the baby boom who are coming of age in these households with good incomes. Their parents could afford instruments, and so they're able to tap into really what's a national, even global scene. So what's going on the TV, what's going on in the record stores, they can imitate here, they can adapt, they can and make that work. So definitely that's part of it. But this is a segregated city in the 1950s and 60s. And so these are younger guys who are going to sneak into African-American clubs, African-American bands are going to sneak into white clubs, and there is a cross-fertilization that happens on this.
Okay, so you guys are young, obviously. Are there any? Does that bring any difficulties for breaking in the music scene at such a young age, or has that been an advantage? How do you guys look at that?
Well, I don't really see it as I guess it's difficult in venues to find and like places to play, because when we're not 21 yet, none of the people in our band or in other bands are 21 yet, so bars are off limits for us and the people we want to play with, or we want to play for, people that come hang out with us. So, venues are kind of few right now, but it's an advantage because, when you're in such a young age, you get, honestly, the promotion of, like, you're at school. You got a bunch of friends, and you get to kind of start the word there, and then just you all hang out afterwards, and then it's pretty easy to get the word around at such a young age right now.
Yeah, with like social media and everything like that at a young age will help us a lot with promoting shows. And like also it was sort of like when we were really young and starting to play, like when we were 15 and 16, it was more of a shock factor because we'd be playing like once in a while bars would let us play. We just have to mark our hands and hang out outside. So we'd go in and play a set and we'd be like 15 and people would remember that. So it helped us a lot starting off really young. But, we're almost getting to where we're of age to play clubs. So booking our tours will be a little bit easier.
And speaking of tours, you guys have recently played outside of the area. How is that different than here in Wichita? What's different? What's better? What's worse? How does that work?
Yeah, like we've hit like over 10 states this year, and just going around, it's been a lot of fun. It's very challenging as well, just like sleeping with strangers on their like hardwood floors, and always like eating out and everything like that. But it's been quite the experience. It definitely makes you thankful for what Wichita has and like the scene, because like all the bands here try to bring as many people as possible. And yeah, I mean, it's been really fun. We've met so many cool people that have been really nice to us. So
yeah, I mean, I might just be a little biased, but the one difference I've noticed that Wichita is just a lot better quality-wise in terms of music. I don't know. There's not a lot of bands we've played with outside of, Wichita that have been like, I want to come back and play with the bands here because I just think they're better. But, I might just be a little biased, but I still think that we've got something pretty special going on down here. So
yeah, and I've noticed here our scene is way younger than any music scene around the Midwest. It's always, whenever we tour, we're always the youngest kids at the club or at the venue we're playing. But when we come here, it's like a bunch of high schoolers, and it's more of a community vibe here. I think it may just be because we're involved in it, but like I feel that here whenever there's an all ages show, it's like an event where a bunch of kids know what's going on, and like everyone's really excited, and we all bring our friends out to it. And on the road a little bit, it's just like hit or miss shows once in a while, but everyone, whenever we go out, will always tell us that they've been hearing about Wichita and have been hearing about the music scene, and we'll meet bands on tour that will message me later, and we'll bring them through Wichita so they can come play and experience like a cool, thriving all-ages scene. So that's a great thing about touring as well. We can bring our friends on the road in.
It's something I've even come across in this earlier period. The Wichita did have an unusually significant live music scene, even compared to places like Kansas City and so forth. We were able to maintain the clubs better. We were able to maintain that music proficiency. So even people who would tour in the 70s out the rest of the country, oh, you're from Wichita, you know so-and-so, and so they know individual musicians and things like that. It's kind of funny you're talking about with the way the clubs are. I'm hearing all sorts of parallels here, because a lot of these guys started in middle school. And so they started with school dances and church groups. A lot of church basements held a lot of dances and so forth. And then they start graduating. Now, back in the 50s and 60s, there was this odd distinction with drinking. The drinking age was 18. Well, at least it was 18 for beer. Now, for hard liquor, it was 21 and up. And so there was one line that 3-2 beer kept the club scene alive, because you had this 18 to 21 cohort that could play at least in places that served just beer. And then they would graduate up to the 21 and above clubs. And so there is some parallel with that.
You guys have mentioned live shows. What's it like, the scene here for live shows as opposed to, I guess, recording and making albums? What's that like?
Well, live shows, I don't know. We like to do a lot more stuff with our live shows. Like we will add parts, change it up a little bit. And it's just the overall, energy is there. It's super fun. And there's nothing like going and playing a live show, just seeing the band there and all having a good time together. But, recording does benefit because you master the songs and perfect them in a way. But there's nothing like playing a live show and going to see one, because it's just the best when you're all together enjoying some music,
Yeah, Jay, could you talk about that historically? Has Wichita been more of a live show oriented or recording oriented? How's that been?
It's definitely been a mixture. We have, again, a large number of clubs that develop in the 1960s and 70s, but there are also contests. The best known in the 60s are the Battles of the Band that are taking place in connection with the cotillion. And so the club owners know that in the world of live music, that if you have these contests, these events, that brings in bands, that brings in customers, and so that's very profitable. What happens in the result of those Battles of the Band, the winners get free supplies and support with instruments or something like that, but they also get recording contracts, and they get recording contracts mainly like for commercial jingles and things of that nature, but that was sort of the next level up if you were really good at your bands in the battles.
Okay, so where do you guys see the Wichita music scene going from here? What's the future? What do you want to see? What do you hope to see? What are some concerns you guys may have? Anybody here? This could be a pretty open question. Take it where you want to take it.
Well, right now it's getting bigger all the time, You just see more and more bands pop up and more people coming out to support those bands. So I can only hope that just continues, and then it becomes a music staple for the country, even just to, how cool Wichita is for new and upcoming bands and just the support it gets. I don't really have that many big complaints. I can't imagine.
It's just like I just really hope it keeps going. Like, I hope that young bands are forming right now and that are going to be able to keep this momentum up, because it's like you get a certain age and then you're not in with the young group anymore, and we'll need more bands to come up and to continue doing what we're doing to make it bigger, so it doesn't just fall off the map and you'd have to start over again. But it's been really exciting with all the Crown Uptown stuff going on and Gallery Alley and getting support from the city. It's really it makes us want to keep working harder because it obviously is making a difference in the community.
Jay, I want to give you a chance to talk about the process of making your book. You said it took 2.5 years. Can you talk about what happened during that 2.5 years and what you learned?
Oh, absolutely. This began with a meeting of a couple of guys at the Historical Museum. And so we talked about, let's have a book that talks about Wichita rock bands. And a lot of the fellows who were involved with it knew a lot of the bands. They were members of the bands over the years. And so we started getting the word out. And what took the time was the minute we started to get more research done, that revealed more connections, more leads. We have a Facebook page, Wichita Rock Music History Project Facebook page. And so we try to ask some questions, build contacts. As soon as we think, okay, we've covered all the major bands, we're ready to go, somebody emails, hey, did you remember so-and-so? And we have to track down those again. So that just kept taking more and more time. It was much more rewarding as a result of it. We had a lot of meetings at Margaritas, which is why the kickoff took place there. But it's all about word of mouth. It's all about connections. It's all about using those community contacts. The original plan was that this book would have been released last year, but we had found so many ties and leads that we just had to do justice to them. It has been an amazing process. I have to admit, I've seldom been part of a local history project where so many people thanked me. I mean, at the end of the kickoff event, I was in the parking lot. 2 individuals came up to me, thanked me for being part of this. This is so important as a part of their life. Even if they're not professional musicians today, they're still part of that scene. It's still part of their lives, and it's one that doesn't get a lot of name recognition, so they've really, really appreciated it. The other thing that was really fascinating to see was how this develops, and it is a generation that some guys would be part of bands and then turn professional. Others would maintain it as a hobby in the background. Others would get involved in the music industry, but from the recording side of it, or they would deal with the audio or the visual side of it, or the music teaching side. And so they took all these different trajectories in their careers, which is fun to watch.
Yeah, could you guys talk about that as well? Like how you guys are currently balancing being students and working on making music. So there's there's a dichotomy there. There's 2 sides. Like how does that fit together? Your student life, your outside of music life, and your music life.
Well, yeah, right now, what we've done is we've kind of set like a schedule almost. A schedule where we take off work these couple days, and then those days right after work, it's almost like it's funner than a job, obviously, but it's almost like a second job because we've got like times and everything where we got to be there. And then so those 2 days we just really hammer home music, and then we work really hard on that. And then in terms of writing everything, I'm always just whenever I'm kind of just sitting there or bored, I'll just pick up a guitar and stuff, and you just are constantly writing. So that really helps them, keep the music flowing and keep everything fresh. So we never want to be, rough. We always want to stay on top of the game and stay at our best for however long we're playing. So, we just try to work on it as much as we can and try to keep improving songs and try to keep reworking sets and practicing songs so we can play them the best that we possibly can. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and it's just like booking tours while all of us were in high school was a little tough because we'd have to wait for spring break, winter break, summer break, and then just every break we had from school, we'd be out on the road touring, and then we'd come back home and then play our local shows while we were all at school. But now that we're all almost out of high school, it'll be much easier to just like go on the road and go on tour and everything. But yeah, just balancing a job and music isn't that crazy. It's just like we all have to get on the same schedule, and then once we get our schedules lined up, it's just like another part of our day.
In the heyday of the bands that we've studied, I see a lot of parallels again. They started playing on weekends or something like that. Once they hit the 18 to 21 age, then they called it the grind. Mm-hmm. There were so many clubs, there were so many venues, and a lot of times clubs would book a particular band to be the band club, or the club band, excuse me. And so what they would do is set them in that, okay, you're going to be playing 5 nights a week. And there were a couple of times that they would say they played 6 nights a week, and the one night off they rehearsed. And so that was what happened for a lot of these bands in the 70s, is that they burned themselves out because they were trying to play every single night. And we're talking, you're playing till 2 in the morning. And some of these guys had jobs. I mean, one guy talked about how he had to leave some of his sets early so he could go to the shift at Boeing. So he played a full set, took off early, worked the night shift at Boeing, and then start right over again.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than like the scene now, because it's not really clubs, it's kids. And I think that's a good thing, so kids aren't getting super burned out, and like you don't want it to become a job, because then that's no fun. Like you don't want it to be like, oh God, I gotta go play a gig. But I think we've done really good at that. I've never felt burnt out before or anything like that. It's just you got to keep hitting new spots, and we try to play like the Crown show. Like we could have just threw it at the donut hole again, but we already did that. So you got to try to make it bigger and better and less boring, so people aren't getting burnt out on the music scene.
Yeah, that's another thing is that it's not just. I feel it wouldn't be just us being burnt out if we did the same venue again, but it'd honestly probably be the people that came out and watched. If you kept doing the same sets over and over again, you'd probably just see less people and less people come out. So we try to keep it interesting.
So yeah, could you guys talk about, is that going to be an issue at some point? Like, I mean, keeping things fresh. I mean, Wichita, for all accounts, isn't a major city. It's not small, but is there a problem with like keeping things fresh and not like, I'm playing at the donut hole every weekend? How does that work?
I think it's just like it gets like, it's not boring now because everyone is constantly working on it, but it can definitely get that way if you just let yourself. Like you just have to keep pushing it and keep working harder, because it's easy just to book Mead scoring in the donut hole every weekend. Like you can do that. Anyone can call them up and which is cool. It's great, but. People will get bored of coming out to the same show, the same bands every night. So that's just why we keep trying to do things like Gallery Alley and the Crown Uptown, and it's just it's the same bands, but it's a different show. It's a totally different feel, and hopefully kids will come out to these shows and form their own bands, and we'll have more bands in the scene.
And as we keep growing as artists and stuff, that'll pick up notice of others, and they want to start new venues, and that'll be another way to keep things fresh. New places open up, and even new audiences will come in and join, and then so we'll try our hardest to keep things fresh, and hopefully that'll jumpstart everyone else, and we'll see the city continue to grow musically.
Yeah, it's a real community thing. It's not like one person keeping it fresh. It's we all just have to work together and come up with new ideas and new ways to pull off shows and stuff.
Hey, so you guys mentioned the Gallery Alley. Jay, was there anything when you were going through your research, any examples of unique venues or places that are different than just playing at a club or playing at the normal place for music? I mean, this is literally what it is. It's an alley, and they set up a show and played in an alley with art on the walls. And was there anything like that that you noticed?
Depends on the era you're talking about. Really early on, you had a club that was known as the Bunny Club, and yes, it was a go-go club. But then the owner was connected to a couple of the band members' parents, and so they rented it out on Sunday afternoons as the Teen Bunny Club is what they called it. So that was sort of fun in the early days. By the 70s, you really see the parks emerging as a big venue, especially as they move out of the club scene and to producing these major concerts. Herman Hill's the best known, but a lot of the clubs and parks and so forth of the 70s hold these big rallies, big activities, and that's something you really see by the late 70s.
Going to change gears here a little bit. Logan and Griffin, you guys are brothers. How does that play into being in a band?
Right now it's making things pretty easier because, we're living together. We always have pretty easy access to each other. Mm-hmm. And then Austin is, he can come down and we only have to, find really scheduled space for, Austin to get here. But since me and Logan are already living together right now, it's pretty easy to, exchange ideas and stuff, write everything, and then, all that.
It's also like we're not afraid to tell each other like, dude, that's not good. Like, I don't care about hurting his feelings, and he doesn't care about mine. And I think that just makes us a better band. Like, at practice, I'm not, like, if something doesn't sound right, I'm not afraid to, like, hurt anyone's feelings. So, like, we can really talk to each other and, like, get down to what sounds the best, regardless of, like, making things awkward or anything. Because we're all, like, he's our next door, or used to be our next door neighbor. He's living in Hutch right now. But, like, we've all, like, been together so long that it really is just about, like, making the best music we can, and having that brotherly relationship makes that much easier.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to, like, understand each other too, and like he said about not holding back ideas and everything, we all understand that it's nothing personal if you have anything against anything you've done, anything you try to put out there, but it just it makes the quality of music we write better because we only try to put out the best that we have. So having that understanding, like brothers do, of not being afraid to tell you what's up, it helps a lot.
And when we're playing live, like, we can just give each other a look and we know exactly what we're talking about. Like, just communicate that way since we've been playing so long together.
Hey, Jay, you had to do a lot of interviews for your book, obviously. Which of those stand out to you? Did you meet any interesting people? Have you formed any connections with people that you never would have expected to?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many people I am able to connect with via email and in person and so forth. In fact, at the launch, there were a number of individuals who I met in person for the first time. I had only known them as emails. And so that was great to be able to make those sorts of connections. The one that I still remember was an interview that was kind of on the south side of town. Two guys hadn't seen each other since the 70s. They had not met since about 73. And so we were talking about the background of their families and how some of them got involved in some music traditions early on. So I asked the one guy, so now, what was the impact of the Beatles on your family's music? He was the younger sibling, so his older siblings were part of a different band. And he thought for a moment, he says, well, my older siblings thought they sucked. I was not ready for that answer. But when he explained it, it made sense. They came out of the doo-wop, the horn band era, so you had to have tuxedos and pompadours, and you couldn't have a decent rock band without a saxophone player, of course. And so this sound, they didn't know what to make of it. It sounded rough and not musical at all. So, yeah, they didn't like the Beatles, at least at first. Now, of course, you talk to other guys, and Beatles were the absolute centerpiece of how they played. So you got that difference really early on.
Could you guys talk about some of your influences in the music you make, or just maybe not even specifically the music, just like influences in general?
So like what started us really, when we were younger, obviously it was the mainstream acts because, we didn't have access to like underground music yet. But since when we were young, we wanted to play music after like probably around Foo Fighters and stuff, it's just the big acts, and we're like, whoa, that's super cool,
Yeah.
So we started really getting this passion of music, and we all liked it. So that caused us to start digging into further music, and we, so we found out this band which was really big for us called Fiddlar, and they kind of broke us into this underground scene that just flourished with a bunch of music. So that's kind of what we thrive for. It's kind of like this, underground fun sound that, is for music only, and it's for the purpose of just having fun and playing with each other.
Yeah, like when we have influences, it's purely like music. Like, we're not really influenced by politics or religion or anything like that. It's like our music is just like we play music, and it's like sounds that are really good, and it's fun to dance, and everyone just comes out and has a good time. Basically, that's all we're going for. It's nothing like deep or anything like that.
something cool about Wichita is since there are so many great bands, like those bands inspire us. Like there's a group of bands that came before us, and we would go to their shows, like because we were playing with them, and we would see them and be like, oh dang, like these bands are so good, and they would like challenge us to get better. So that I would count that as an influence as well.
Yeah, definitely growing up with bands like The Travel Guide and Japanese Game Show and, bands like that, it's just, like, we really did look up to them because, like, to us, they were, like, the rock stars in town, and it's cool that we've become friends with all of those bands and, like, we're able to hang out with them and stuff because they really did. Those were probably our most important influences, were just the local bands in town that helped us get our start.
Because they provided us, we had no idea there was, like, a Wichita music scene, We had, like, we generally didn't have, we thought everyone was from out of town, but when we first started playing, we played with Japanese Game Show and stuff, and they were super good, and we were just, like, blown away by the talent that just was unnoticed here. And, that pushed us to get better, and it also pushed us to just try to get more exposure to the city because it's so talented and because it's so, to us important, and we just want to share that with everybody. So yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good influence for us. Yeah.
One of the things we talk about with how influence works, and it's maybe a little different in this earlier period. This was a world where you didn't have instant access to music, and there was no YouTube. So how did you know what was coming out? And certainly you might see something on the Ed Sullivan Show. You might hear something on a major radio station. Maybe a major local band like the Board of Regents or a musician like Pat McJimsey would really inspire you, so you might hear that in the 60s and 70s. But a lot of times it was the music stores that played a huge role in this, and a number of guys talked about how they would go down to the music store the day of the week that the new records came in. They would buy the record, they would go home, and they would essentially reverse engineer it so they could play it over the weekend. And that was a really important influence for an awful lot of the bands.
Jay, looking historically, what kind of advice do you have for these guys and other guys like them? What are things they could avoid? What are some different innovative things they could do? I mean, just looking from a historical perspective, what has worked, what hasn't for like local bands in Wichita?
You're going back to the conversation about influential interviews. One of the big interviews that influenced how I framed this book was that from Donnie Overstake, who was the manager of Margaritas. And he was a member of the band Lotus, but he's also the owner of a club. And realizing that there's a difference between the club and the band, because the band wants to perfect a sound, they have a particular approach to music, or they want to have an influence or something like that. The club owner needs to get folks in the door. And so a piece of music might be really innovative, but if people don't want to hear it, he's not going to want to play it, or she's not going to want to have it played. So knowing that tension, I think, is part of it. The other thing is maybe thinking about what's the ultimate goal. And it's okay not being the on-tour rock star all the time. That's an awful lot of work. But think through what your ultimate goal is. Do you want to go pro? Do you want to keep this as an important part of your life? Is this a side outlet? You maybe think about how that works. But the other thing, as you develop this as a career, remember that the music career is more than just playing the music. You might find yourself really involved in the sound or the tech or the promotion of it. And it's that aspect of the industry that's created as much of a job opportunity for a lot of these bands and band members as being out front with the vocals or the guitar.
All right. What do you guys see in the future for Kill Vargas? What do you guys want? What are your goals?
We've got a new album coming out next year that we're recording in January, and we've been working on it for the last couple months with a bunch of friends from a bunch of different local bands that have come in and helped us. So we're really excited to have
January next month?
That's when we start
recording it.
Okay.
It'll be out sometime next year, probably around the summer, but we haven't had an official date or anything. But yeah, just a lot more touring too. And I've got a couple ideas for some all-ages shows in Wichita next year that I'll be working on. But yeah, just a lot more touring is basically what we're focusing on next year.
Is there anywhere in particular that you guys want to go to?
Well, we started and we're pretty deep into the process. We're booking our first West Coast tour, so we're gonna hit the West Coast, which is a place I've never been before. And another good thing about doing this is like all the states that we played, I've never even been before, you know. So it's cool just traveling out there and playing music. But yeah, a state I've always wanted to just visit and not even play, but just go to is California. So to finally go up there and play some music would be super cool.
All right, Jay, where can we find your book? People who wanna read about this, where do we find that?
It's available at Watermark Books, Eighth Day Books, also the Wichita Central County Historical Museum. Those are the main outlets, and it's published through Mennonite Press, and so you can also contact Mennonite Press.
All right, what can we expect from your show on Saturday?
Oh, it's just a lot of fun. You know, we've been working on our set for quite a while. We think we figured out a pretty fun set to, you know, come and watch. We got some surprises and stuff, some additions to songs, and you know, it's just 4 amazing bands, you know, coming together and having a great time. So we can't wait to play with them.
Yeah, it'll be super cool, and the fact that it's all ages and free too, that anyone can just walk right in and experience the music is really important to us, because we try every single show that we throw here in Wichita, we try to make free. If it's our headline show, we try to make it free because we don't really mind not making as much money because we're in town. We don't really need it. We just want as many people to be able to come to shows and start their own bands and everything like that. But yeah, just expect like really loud, really fun music and a bunch of energetic 18 to 20-year-old kids.
I got to ask a question, because this is a hypothesis I've noticed. Who's the drummer? All right. Well, you look at the genealogy of these bands, the drummer seems to be one of the key focal points, and I don't know why. Am I misreading that or something like that?
Well, I mean, I would say that makes sense because, like, it all starts with your drummer, you know. If your drummer's off, everything is off.
Plus, I think drums is the hardest instrument to learn. And, like, not many people, like, are just like, I want to play drums. Like, everyone's like, I want to sing and play guitar. So finding a drummer for your band is, like, the most important thing. And luckily...
Well, and it's, like, another thing about drums is just, like, for most people anyway, like, maybe professionals it's different, but it's, like, you mainly notice when it's bad, you know? Like, when it's, like, doing a good job and it's, like, keeping its beat, you don't really keep up with it that much. But if it's bad, you're like, that's bad. But
yeah, it's just like, an old saying was that I heard is a band is only as good as their drummer.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good drummer, you can't have a good band. You can be the best guitarist in the world, but
you can't
if
play
your
on
drummer
a
is
beat or whatever. It
not
doesn't make
good
sense.
on the beat, it's not going to be a
Plus,
tight
like,
show.
drums is what gets people dancing.
Yeah.
If you talk to someone that doesn't know music, like, why do you like that song? They're like, oh, I like the beat. Not like, the chord progression is cool, you know.
Especially the type of music we play, it's like a lot of dancing, rock and roll type stuff. So the drums are super important.
Yeah, and the drums are expensive. I mean, there's a lot of equipment. So and it seems like at least early on, the drummer and the keyboardists had all the equipment. They had the amps. They had all, and so they would cycle it out. I mean, one of my best favorite stories with a band, they got themselves double booked. And so what they did is they had like the drummer and the lead guitarist go to one gig. They had the keyboardist and the vocalist to go to the other, and they had their friends fill in the rest, so they literally played 2 at once.
All right, thank you guys for being on. Again, Kill Vargas will be at Crown Uptown Theater December 9th. Free show at 6 p.m. And Jay Price's book, Wichita Rock and Roll, 1950 through 1980s, is available now at bookstores in Wichita. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Before we bring on our last guest, let's talk about the news.
Recap some of the recent developments here in the Wichita area. Spirit Aerosystems announced that it would be adding $1 billion in capital investments to the Wichita area and 1,000 jobs. That would be direct jobs. They said that would also lead to more spin-off jobs. These would be high-tech, high-value careers to look forward to, they said. We're going to do a lot of unusual things in the coming years, Lieutenant Governor Jeff Collier said.
And from what I understand, we got a pretty good quote of the day out of this whole happening. Matt Kelly, is that true?
It is indeed, from Wichita Mayor Jeff Longwell. So Wichita is a great place to raise a family. and a better place to own a business.
Yeah, just another great quote from him was, "We're truly open for business." This is all based around the Greater Wichita Partnership, who have been in the news recently. So I think it's interesting that we're branding ourselves very much as a state open for business, that we're willing to work with businesses to provide infrastructure and buildings for businesses. And it all kind of comes back when we're talking about Wichita State to the Innovation Campus and the partnerships going on there. I know they talked about NIR.
I do notice a lot of parallels there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I know in a lot of all of your research, we've kind of seen a lot of interesting parallels here. I know John Bardo and the university president, John Bardo, and the university vice president for strategic communications, Lou Heldman, were both in attendance today for the Spirit Aerospace announcement. What do you think this means for Wichita State?
I think we're gonna take it and run. I think that's the direction we're going. We're open for business. There's a lot of, for better or for worse, there's a lot of privatization going on at the Innovation Campus, and I think that's the direction we're headed. I don't know about you, Matt.
Yeah, spirit of innovation. That's seems to be what we're defining ourselves as the university, and potentially even at the state level, if this is something that we're getting behind.
Yeah, I know President Bardo's whole scholarship is based around economic development, and I know that aligns closely with city, county, and private industry interests in the Wichita area. So I think what this could mean is a lot of those spin-offs, those subcontractors. I think some of those things will be taken care of at Wichita State on Innovation Campus. I'm not sure how it all connects at this point, but I'm sure it will affect Wichita State. There's no doubt in my mind.
All right, now it's time to bring in our last guest.
Yeah, so you're on thin ice with the Sunflower. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name's Chance Swaim. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Sunflower and co-host of the podcast On Thin Ice.
I'm Ray Strunk. I'm the other co-host, and I'm also an editor with the Sunflower.
I'm Marissa Campbell, and I'm the culture editor at the Sunflower.
And today we have a special guest. We have Kyle Richardson, also known as K-Rich, a local rapper and WSU graduate. Good to have you on, Kyle.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Welcome. What's up, Wichita?
So, K-Rich, you want us to call you K-Rich or
Yes.
Kyle?
No.
Or K-Rich.
Yes.
All right.
K-Rich it is.
When did you first start going by K-Rich?
It was actually a nickname I got probably when I was 10 or 11. I went to the library, and they didn't have enough time to say, "Hi, Kyle Richardson, how are you doing?" So they shortened my name. Because every time I went to the computers, I was gone before they saw me.
Okay, so
They
does
shortened
it
my
have
name.
anything to do with money either? Like, is that
No.
a double thing? No, it's just,
No,
it's just your
I'm
name.
broke. I'm a college grad.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So take us back. Give us the shortened version of sort of your biography, where you're from, what you majored in here at WSU.
Yeah, I majored in communications, emphasis electronic media, graduated in May. I've lived in Hayesville, Kansas, in the same house my entire life.
All right. So why rap music? Why are you getting into rap music? What's up?
Well, I started playing drums in 8th grade, and it was really hard to play. It's really hard to play drums when you play at night and your dad wakes up in the morning for work because he yells at you. So I was like, I should rap. And it was around the same time that I watched 8 Mile from Eminem. I was like, I can do that. They need a second white rapper in the game.
So you're saying that Eminem is your biggest influence in the rap game?
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Okay, I heard you were on 93.5 recently, one of your songs. Can you talk about that? What's up?
Yeah, so I went to California for spring break, and I wrote a song about it. And I emailed Greg the Hitman, who is the DJ guy from 93.5. And I just this is my favorite song. I think it's the best one so far. I hope you play it on the local art showcase. And The next day, I got a message from Rolls-Royce, who was in charge of the showcase, and he said, "Can you come in for an interview?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
Has anything changed for you since that happened?
Well, I mean, like ever since then, I've gotten in newspapers, and so my newspaper. I made the Hayesville paper also, and it's hanging up at my work at Casey's. So everyone is just like, "Oh, you're kind of popular now." I'm like, "Well, how many people in Wichita do you know that's been on the mainstream radio that you know personally?"
So are you letting the success get to your head?
Try not to.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, what is it about rap and you and Eminem? Like, what about that appeals to you as a person, and your beliefs? Maybe the things you want to express but can't in any other way. Like, how does that appeal to you?
Well, like in one of my songs, Struggling Musician, English was my worst subject in high school, so it was hard to, like, say stuff on the microphone like right now, and it's easier to just write it down in a rap and perform it, because then it's on your head. You don't have to worry about people like, "Oh, what is he saying?" I could just think, here's my message, here's the story behind it, here's, like, the fictional way of it, but it actually ties to me.
So is K-Rich a rap persona, or is K-Rich you? Is that...
That's a good question. Originally, it was supposed to be like Eminem and Slim Shady, but over the years, it's just kind of morphed into the same personality, so it depends. Some days I feel like it's separate, some days it's the same. It's a very Jekyll and Hyde situation.
Jekyll and Hyde. So has your time at WSU influenced any of your rap music? Have you felt...
One of my video classes, I made a freestyle rap and just recorded it and put it on for Kevin Hager's class, and they looked at me and they're like, "Interesting." And then I released my first music video as the student choice video project.
And how do your friends and your family, your coworkers, people you've showed your music to, how have they reacted, and has that been a positive thing or a negative thing?
Definitely positive. They all love me. And work specifically, the Highland guy, when I have to sign for the milk products, and he says, "Make sure you sign with your artist name, not your real name."
Nice.
So that's just an example of how everyone is responding to my music, and they like the messages and the stories and the creativity behind it.
Yeah, so what is the message you're trying to get across, foremost?
The message I'm trying to get across is, first and foremost, you gotta chase your dreams. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Like, inspiration is my number one goal, because a lot of people in high school said I wasn't very good at rapping, and look at me now, I made the radio. And my secondly is just things that have happened to me personally, and how can I tell those stories to help other people's lives. So I went through this. This is how I went through it, and how I reacted to it, and how I dealt with it, so you don't have to go through that thing.
How do you feel like your music has progressed since high school?
Well, just in production quality, I'm not recording on my own phone, so I actually have a studio set up that I go to. So, and then I'm smarter with my lyrics. Like, I used to just do like lunchroom battles, and now it's like it's hard to freestyle, honestly, because it's like, that's lunchroom battling to me. To me, I'm like, I can make a good story if you just give me some time to write out, and it'll hit you harder than what you can make up in a lunchroom. So
you're talking about how you've progressed, but where do you see yourself in the future? Where do you want to go from here?
I'm gonna take this as far as the doors open. I don't want to force any doors open, because then it won't work out. So as long as doors keep opening, I'll go through it. My church actually just got a new building, so I'm trying to persuade them into let me rap there on a weekend night when we all settled in. So that's the next step. Have a legit concert.
Awesome. Okay,
Nice.
so I'm gonna put you on the spot here. You have something prepared for us. Are you ready?
Yeah, I wrote this in 5 minutes.
Okay. I think we're ready for you, K-Rich. I think the world's ready to hear.
Does this have a title?
It's untitled.
Okay.
What time is it? Time to hit the mic. My lyrics talking to everyone on this site. Flowing a cappella, who needs a beat? Looking around, the competition is weak. Mainstream radio, it's bragging rights, you know. So sit down, because I'm about to hit up the show. 70 degrees on a warm sunny day, rolling down the street, trying to stay in my lane. Girls be working out, jogging by the piers. I'm on my longboard, trying not to veer, catch my mind. Hey, all the beautiful scenery going out. Night, girl says hit on my PB, where the nightlife is attractive. Although I missed a chance, need to come back. Get lost too many times to my cousin Dexter. Just joined him in pool, had to teach him a lesson. No matter how many times I visit San Diego, days will be short, and I'll never want to come home. California, met K Rich, like mixed chemicals, good to create your own lips. Beautiful and disastrous at the same time, because it's going down the hill during the green light. That was a freestyle and a verse from my radio song.
There it is.
Mixed
K
together.
Rich,
Nice,
everybody.
nice.
Thank you, man. It's good to have you on. Good to meet you, buddy.
Thank you.
Keep the faith, man. Thank you for listening to Thin Ice, the Sunflowers News and Entertainment Podcast. Again, you can reach us on Twitter at Sunflower News, on Facebook at The Sunflower, or on our website, thesunflower.com. We will be back with our weekly podcast after winter break. So in the meantime, kick some ass on your finals and enjoy the holidays. I look forward to talking to you again in 2018.